Frid och shalom, älskade vänner. Idag är det den 11 november. Vi önskar er Guds välsignelse och att vi ska kunna glädja oss i Herren trots allt mörker. Så närmar sig dagen väldigt snabbt när vi ska få ett evigt liv. Vi som tror och håller fast vid det sanna evangeliet ända till slutet. Det är upplopp och uppror i hela världen. Därför är det så viktigt att vi får leva nära Jesus och att ha hans frid i våra hjärtan. Om vi tar på förebilden nu som Gud sa åt mig då när jag var i Moholm, så sa han: du ska läsa andra Mosebok. Hur Herren din Gud förde ut Israels barn ut ur Egypten, för på samma sätt ska jag göra det igen, sa Herren faktiskt. Och då ser vi ju där då att det var ju en som hette Josef som faktiskt hade en väldig inverkan på det här folket. Och hans namn betyder ju han lägger till, och det är en bild på Messias. Men de levde ju i ett land som heter Goshen då, och det betyder att dra sig närmare någon. Och den som drar sig närmare någon, han får ju då frid ifrån Gud. För någon här är ju Jesus. Och han ger våra sinnen och våra tankar frid, står det. När vi tillber honom, lever i relation och i sanningen. Och sanningen är ju den att hundratusentals människor demonstrerade i centrala London på lördagen för att visa sitt stöd för det palestinska folket och för att uppmana till eldupphör i Gaza. Under de senaste veckorna har det dykt upp nästan i varje stad i USA. Idag samlades alltså över 500 000 människor, över 500 000, på gatorna i London och krävde död åt judarna och förintelse åt Israel och hyllade denne Adolf Hitler som visste hur man skulle handskas med dessa människor. Judarna vill säga då. De allra flesta människorna som ser allt detta, här var, hör och häpna, många kristna. Och de har inte en aning om att man ser Bibelns profetior spelas upp framför ögonen. Och då är det ju så här, vänner, att vi måste ju kunna vår Bibel idag. För vart vi står i den här frågan kommer att visa vad vi har i våra hjärtan. För det är ju så här att Jesus Kristus, Messias, han var jude. Och han sa ju till kvinnan i Samarien där att frälsningen kommer ifrån judarna. Och det står det pågående form. Och vi ska ju tillbe Gud i ande och i sanning. Något annat tar inte Gud emot, sa ni. Och det här är ju en stor lögn som till och med många kristna var med i här i London och på många andra ställen. Man har tagit ställning för en lögn, alltså. Ja, men min bibel eller vår bibel säger så här att i Johannes 16 står det att anden tar ifrån Messias, ifrån Jesus, och uppenbarar ljuset här i våra hjärtan så att vi ska få förstånd och drivas i ande och sanning, alltså av den helige ande. Och då vet vi att Gud aldrig går emot sitt eget ord när du får en uppenbarelse eller när du får någon upplevelse om Gud, så går han aldrig ifrån sitt eget ord. Och nu står det i Jeremia 31:2: tro inte ett ögonblick, säger Paulus i Romarbrevet 11 förresten, att Gud skulle ha övergivit sitt folk. Nej, aldrig i livet. Löftena står kvar. Sen får du säga precis vad du vill och tycker, men löftena står kvar. Och vi ska se till nu i den här tiden, för det här blir en skiljelinje i församlingar och i enskilda människors liv. För det kommer manifesteras då vad som finns i våra hjärtan, vilken väg vi väljer. Jeremia 31:2 säger Herren: det folk som kommer undan svärdet finner nåd i öknen. Israel får gå dit där jag ger det ro. Gud ger det ro. Fjärran från mig uppenbarade sig Herren för mig. Med evig kärlek har jag älskat dig. Därför låter jag min nåd förbliva över dig. Vi kan inte berömma oss någon människa, och inte Israel heller. Israel är inte världens bästa nation när det gäller politik och handlingar. De är som alla andra, ni vet. Men det är en oerhörd skillnad att Gud har bestämt om det här lilla folket och det här lilla landet. Han handlar med dem i nåd, precis som han gör i ditt och mitt liv också. Han har bestämt Israel till en speciell plats och en speciell position som han lovade deras förfader, och våran förfader också förresten, Abraham. Och vi fortsätter i vers 4. Än en gång ska jag upprätta dig så att du blir upprättad, du jungfru Israel. Än en gång ska du ta upp din tamburin och dra ut i dans med dem som är glada. Än en gång ska du plantera vingårdar på Samariens berg. Och de som planterar ska själva få njuta av frukten. Ty en dag kommer då väktare ska ropa på Efraims berg: kom upp och dra upp till Sion, upp till Herren vår Gud. Ty så säger Herren: jubla i glädje över Jakob, höj fröjderop över honom som är den främste bland folket. Brist ut i lovsång och säg: fräls Herre, ditt folk, det som är kvar av Israel. Det råder ingen som helst tvekan om att den här profetian handlar om både judarna men också den troende i Herren på en gång. Och Sion är här en bild på Jerusalem, men samtidigt en bild på den nya Jerusalem som den kristne då tillber i. Men om det inte vore Jerusalem här, så skulle ju det inte heller vara Jerusalem i Sakarja bok. För där står det att jag ska göra Jerusalem till en lyftesten för alla folk, och han ska göra den till en beruselsens bägare, står det. Det är alltså en dom. Och alla som kommer emot Sion eller Jerusalem kommer att dömas. Så här ser vi profetian då, att nåden gäller en, och den som är uppfylld av den helige ande, han kan omöjligt, hör ni det? Omöjligt gå emot Israel. Det finns inte en chans, kom inte att säga det, inför oss. Och vi ska läsa Uppenbarelseboken 12 från vers 13 till och med 17. När draken såg att han hade blivit nedkastad på jorden följde han kvinnan som hade fött barnet, Israel, eller hur? Men den stora örnens vingar gavs åt kvinnan som kunde flyga ut till sin plats i öknen, där hon borta ifrån ormen får sitt uppehälle en tider och en halv tid. Det var ju där Jeremia profeterar om, att hon finner ro i öknen. Ja, vad Gud hittar på här i framtiden, det kan ju bara tiden få avgöra. Vers 15. Då sprutade ormen vatten ur sin mun som en flod efter kvinnan, för att hon skulle föras bort med floden. Ja, det kan man väl säga händer nu med alla skall av munnar som hotar och att Israel ska förgöras och gasas och hatar judarna och det. Det är väl ormens mun. Så passa er, kära vänner, för vad vi säger så vi inte går emot Gud själv. Men från vers 16 står det: men jorden hjälpte kvinnan. Den öppnade sin mun och svalde floden som sprutade ut ur hennes mun då, eller ut ur munnen. Här är det ju väldigt svårt att veta vad som det här betyder, men det kan ju vara att Gud reser upp olika nationer till exempel som tystar de här folkliga uppropen, och det ser vi ju faktiskt ske idag också. Och sen har vi från vers 17 då, så ser vi återigen hur den kristne och Israel och Messias går inte att skilja åt. I sitt raseri mot kvinnan, alltså mot Israel, gick draken bort för att strida mot de övriga av hennes barn, mot dem som lyder Guds bud och håller fast vid Jesu vittnesbörd. Ja, här ser ni då att det blir skillnad på dem som inte håller fast vid Jesu vittnesbörd och håller fast vid Jesu vittnesbörd. Och det ser ni kommer ju att handla om våran position till landet Israel och till det judiska folket. Eller hur? Skriften är ju solklar. Alltså den som lyder Guds bud, han har ju kärlek, va? Han vaktar på Guds ord, och det är ju sanningen, va? Och då kom ju domen, står det ju i andra Thessalonikerbrevet 2, över alla dem som inte älskar sanningen. Ja, de som står med i de här Hamas demonstrationerna till exempel, de kan ju inte älska sanningen. Det är ju totalt omöjligt enligt Guds ord. Om en sån säger sig vara kristen som står med i Hamas då, så är han redan under en dom. Och det hebreiska uttrycket för laglöshet betyder just att man är under en dom. Så när vi läser in den laglösa eller de laglösa, så står de redan under en dom som är totalt motsats ifrån de rättfärdiga. Ja, och så ska vi se en intressant video till slut här då, som handlar om nar som verkar sig dra sig mot Rom allt mer. Man närmar sig alltså det som många profeter pekar ut som den falske profeten, nämligen påven i Rom. Och katolska kyrkan har i grund och botten, precis som nar, samma teologiska tankesätt, nämligen Guds rike, här och nu, även kallad dominionism eller kingdom now. Vi hoppar över den här kartvideon som vi brukar ha på morgonen här. Jag var tvungen här att spela in här innan här en video med Israels krigskabinett som ändå visar hur man har tänkt föra det här kriget. Och det är ju 3 personer då, det är Netanyahu och det är Galat tror han heter, och så är det då Gans som sitter i ledningen här. Och man utfrågas då under en journalistisk sammankomst här vad man tänker göra och hur man står. Det här är väldigt viktigt. Och nyheterna kommer direkt från Israel från en kanal som heter I24. Och den är svensktextad, så håll till godo nu. I Jesu Kristi namn. Stå för sanningen, vänner, så vi inte kommer under Guds dom. Gud välsigne er alla. Vi hörs under dagen.
To embrace the families of those who have been killed. And there are some new troops who have been added to them. Those who were killed yesterday. Our hearts go out to the families of Matan Meir, Yossi Hershkovitz, Sergei Shmerkin, Nati Harush, and Moshe Yedidia Leitel, the eldest son of my good friend, who was the chief of staff of my office, Yechiel Leitel. May God avenge the death of our amazing heroes. And I would like to say from here to all the families whose loved ones were killed in this difficult war. We are doing everything in our capacity in order to be worthy of their sacrifice, in order to be worthy of their heroism. We will not stop until we complete our mission. The war on Hamas-ISIS is progressing full force, and it has one goal: to win. There is no other alternative to victory. We're going to completely wipe out Hamas, and we will bring back our hostages. IDF forces have finished surrounding the city of Gaza. They are now operating in the heart of the city. They are at the outskirts of the Shifa hospital. They've killed thousands of terrorists, including senior commanders and archive murderers who led the terrible massacre on that terrible Saturday of October 7th. Hamas has actually lost its control in the northern section of the Gaza Strip. It has no place to hide, from Sinwar to the very last terrorist. All Hamas operatives and terrorists must die. Our forces are acting above and beneath the ground, targeting them. We are going to continue full force. We are going to continue until victory. We are also very well prepared in the northern front. We are using aggressive fire from the air and from the ground over there. And I have warned Hezbollah, don't make that mistake and enter the war, because it will be the mistake of your lives. If you decide to enter the war, that will decide the fate of Lebanon. And we are also acting in other fronts. Every day we act against terrorism, against its proxies and activists, both in Lebanon, Syria, and the Red Sea, in Judea, Samaria, and wherever we must. Regarding the hostages, I keep hearing various publications in the international media from unauthorized people, and I would like to once again reiterate, bringing back the hostages is a main goal of this war. It's at the top of my agenda and the agenda of all my colleagues here. We convene discussions every day on the war cabinet, which I head. When I meet with the representatives of the family, and the day before yesterday, I had a very moving meeting along with my wife. So when I meet with them, I see the pain in their eyes, I see the nightmare, and I say to them, we will do everything in our power to bring them back home. Regarding the hostages, the cabinet and I have provided a very clear instruction. There will be no ceasefire without the return of our hostages. And it's important that you understand that the international negotiations for the release of the hostages is conducted by the head of the Mossad, Dedi Barnea, in collaboration with Major General in Reserves, Nitzan Alon. And whenever we have something concrete to say, we will update the family, and then we will bring it to the government. Until then, it's best to keep silent about it. To the leaders of the Arab countries, those leaders who are concerned with the future of their countries as well as the future of the Middle East, I'd like to say one thing to all you leaders. You must stand up against Hamas. In its 16 years of tyranny, Hamas has brought a disaster to Gaza. It gave the people of the Gaza Strip only two things: blood and poverty. Hamas is an integral part of the axis of terrorism led by Iran, and this axis of evil and terrorism is risking the entire world as well as the entire Arab world. I'm convinced that many Arab country leaders understand that. We also continue to operate internationally in order to give our troops some international credit and leeway. At the beginning of the war, we acted in order to mobilize American support. I speak with President Biden every day. I appreciate his support, and I also appreciate the arrival of 2 aircraft carriers with an assisting fleet. They have come to our region, and I also appreciate the special submarine that has arrived here, the help in munitions, and the diplomatic and moral support of the American administration, and the broad moral support of the entire American people. And in interviews to the American media, I talk about the atrocities committed by Hamas on October 7th. And I warn that all free human beings in in free countries have the moral duty to support Israel. I speak about the heroism of our civilians and our troops. I call upon the return of our hostages and a fierce objection to ceasefire that does not include the return of the hostages. And I say to the Americans, you must also rally to our main goal, which is the eradication of Hamas, because this must be your goal as well. And I have to say that the majority of the American population supports us and the policy we're leading. It's true that there are other voices as well, but we are trying to stand up to them as well. And I'm very happy that leaders from all over the world have agreed to my call to come to Israel and support us. It's very important to us, but it doesn't mean that there aren't disagreements that come up every once in a while. These things happen. It happens because in some of these countries there are minorities exerting pressure on the leaders. And I say to the leaders, do not succumb to the pressure. Our war is your war. And in this war, we must win. For our sake, but also for your sake. In any case, I would like to clarify no kind of international pressure, no lies that are told about our troops and our military will change our belief in the fact that we are just here and will not move us from our duty to protect ourselves. As the Prime Minister of the State of Israel, I represent the only country of the Jewish people, a people that has existed for 3,500 years. You are our wonderful people, are the wonderful Israeli civilians, both Jews and non-Jews, and that amazing legacy and heritage which we all represent give us the power to stand firmly and face the world whenever necessary. As for all the talk about the day after, that day will come only after Hamas is eradicated. Gaza will be demilitarized and there will no longer be a threat from the Gaza Strip on Israel. In order to guarantee that there is no such threat, whenever necessary, the IDF will continue to control the Gaza Strip from a security perspective, ensuring that terrorism won't come out of it, because the massacre of October 7th has proven for once and for all that wherever there is no Israeli control, terrorism establishes itself and ultimately strikes against us. And that has been proven in Judea and Samaria as well. This is why I will not forgo security control under any condition and in any state. Citizens of Israel, today we all stand united. We understand a few basic things. If we want peace, we must eradicate Hamas. If we want security, we must wipe out Hamas. If we want to guarantee the future of the State of Israel, we must completely take out Hamas. This is what Israel must do, and this is what Israel will do. Together we will fight, and God willing, together we will win. Yesterday, I toured the south. Today, I toured the north. Yesterday, I had met with troops from the Golani Brigade. I saw their determination. I saw their strength and power. I saw their exact activities and operations. I saw the cooperation between the different forces, infantry, armored corps, engineering, the artillery, which is providing assistance, and also the Air Force and the Navy. They're all working as one palm, and they're all succeeding. In the north, I met both reservists and conscripts, and I saw the determination and their power. And they said to me, we are not going to leave this region. Even if it takes a month, 2 months, a year, we want the IDF to complete its missions. The Israelis can trust us. They can trust the IDF troops and commanders. As for the fighting in Gaza, the goals are clear, the assignments are well defined, and the IDF is carrying out its mission. There is tremendous pressure on Hamas, and this pressure is increasing as we're speaking. They are hearing the tanks above the tunnels, and they can hear the bulldozers demolishing homes, and they know very well that we will reach them. They live with great fear and apprehension. And let me say on that matter, the great greater the force and pressure, thus they are more stressed, Hamas, and this increases the chances to reach the hostages. We have this utmost mission to both win the war and to bring back the hostages home. In the northern front, the provocations have turned into aggression. Hezbollah is playing with fire, and I would like to say things very clearly and briefly. Our forces on the ground are prepared for any mission. We have a lot of Orbat there. The troops are ready, and they are exacting a heavy price every day from Hezbollah. The Air Force aircrafts, most of its power is not focused on Gaza. They are actually prepared towards the north. The pilots are inside the cockpit, ready for any instruction at any moment, and we know that we have whom to trust. The people of Lebanon must know that if Nasrallah will make a mistake, the fate of Beirut might be similar to that of the fate of Gaza. I also wanted to speak this evening about one of the hostages. His name is Kfir. He's a 10-month-old baby from Kibbutz Nir Oz. His entire family was abducted to Gaza. He's exactly at the age of my youngest grandson, and I ask myself, who's playing with him? Who's taking care of him? Who feeds him when he's there with all these savages? Who's taking care of a baby that is still crawling, who can't even walk yet? And this question is constantly gnawing at me, and I'd like to say to all of you, we have this utmost duty to bring back the hostages home, to their homes. Kfir, as well as the entire number of 240 hostages, children, women, the elderly. We must bring all of them back home. And this question is also addressed to the leaders of the world. I hear some of them, and I ask myself, I ask them, from where do you have the audacity to preach to us in the midst of war? 1,500 troops, civilians, women and children were either abducted or killed in these battles, and it happened only a month ago. You all saw it. And I'd like to say to these European leaders who are criticizing us, the State of Israel and the Israeli people in 2023, this isn't 1943. We have the ability as well as the duty to defend ourselves on our own, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We will not rest until we carry out our mission and execute it in such a way that Hamas will be defeated. At the end of this war, we will bring back the hostages, and we won't have a terror organization called Hamas in the Gaza Strip. It won't have any governmental or military capabilities. There will be no security threat over Israel, and we will have absolute security, freedom of action to act against any threat and any enemy. We still have many days of combat ahead of us. We will need courage. We will have to take some difficult decisions. We will need heroism, but I trust the ability of the troops, the commanders, and of all of us to rise up to this challenge and to finish the war with a victory, and also by bringing back the hostages. Hello, everyone. The IDF acted on this Saturday as well, deep inside the Gaza Strip, in the north, in Judea, Samaria, and in other fronts. Just like the Minister of Defense just said, our troops are giving the best possible answer to those who had asked whether our ground forces will be ready, those who doubted the TikTok generation, those who doubted the ability to combine between ground forces, air force, and the Navy, those who had asked whether all our protective and defense measures and systems will rise to this multi-front challenge. And even with this pain that we are all feeling in these difficult moments, what I've seen so far, both in the battlefield and in the home front, is very impressive. I'd like to convey my appreciation to all the general commanders and the heads of the security establishment, whether it's a father in a helicopter and his son in the tank. The entire people of Israel is behind you. A month after the establishment of this war cabinet, we are facing the greatest test to the resilience of the Israeli population that we've ever known as a state and society. We are facing these inhumane terrorists that are exploiting children in order to defend war criminals. And this is why it is so important for us to stand here, for the whole world to know that the Israeli society is united and strong, that the state of Israel is dealing heroically with determination and with intelligence, and that we will manage to survive all of this and weather all of this together, that our only consideration is a victory and the best interest of the state of Israel, that we must invest all of our national resources in order to win and bring back the hostages home, in order to maintain the resilience of the society. And I would like to emphasize to all of us, both inside and outside of Israel, right now, many people are attending rallies to bring back our hostages home, and I send an embrace to all of them, and I promise you that we are doing everything we can, both operationally and diplomatically, in order to bring them all home. It's important for me to look the families in the eyes, just as I had done personally in our meetings, and I would like to say that these efforts are taking place all the time and in all measures. And to Israelis, I'd like to say, do not consume propaganda. There is only one official that can report in a credible manner and that will prevent a damage to the efforts, and that's the Israeli government and its various agencies. Whatever the developments are, the combat is continuing and will continue until we reach our goals. We are not going to come back until we finish executing our plan. And to the leaders of the world, and I'm in contact with them as well as with leaders from this region, I would like to say to all of you this evening, there is no more moral or ethical combat and warfare than our fighting for our right to live here. You must act in order to enable a different reality in the future, so that Gaza will not be held by those whose hands are bloodied with the blood of innocent individuals. You must pressure and attack Hamas so that the hostages will be returned home and for this war to come to an end one day. Of course, we will not receive any preaching from Assad, who has massacred children, or the leader of Tehran. Those who shook the hands of Iran remembers what Iran did and knows what Iran is still doing. The countries of this region have a role in helping the Palestinians. They must do so. They must provide humanitarian help, and they must understand that reality forces us this change of regime in Gaza. Citizens of Israel, the pictures of the troops who were killed in action are etched in our hearts, and I wish to salute them and to give all of our support and embrace to their families. On Thursday, I visited the community of Yanuch-Jat, a small town of 7,000 people, hundreds of them serving now in reserve duty, and two of the people from Yanuch-Jat, the troops and commanders from there, were killed when I met the mother of Salman Khafta, who was killed in action action. She showed me his picture, embraced it, and she said, I'm proud of my son. And when I left their home, I met Galit, that her son was also killed in action. With all the pain she carries, it was very important for her to come there and help and support other families. Two mothers who represent so many mothers, and that's the heroic story of the entire Israeli society. We are all proud of all Israelis. We are all proud of all sectors and sections of our society. And God willing, and with the help of each and every one of you, of us in the home front and in the battle zone, we will win and we will continue to win.
These were the statements of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and War Cabinet member Benny Gantz. It is not a common occurrence when we see those three in the same room together. Not to speak about taking questions from journalists, so let's tune back in. One question is addressed for the Prime Minister, another one for War Cabinet member Benny Gantz.
Objected to the to killing of terrorists, to issue them a judgment. First of all, I'd like to say that security control includes the ability to enter whenever we want to in order to kill off terrorists that could come up again to fight against Israel. Let me tell you what we won't have. We won't have Hamas. What also won't exist there is some kind of a civilian administration who educates their children to hate Israel, to kill Israelis, to eradicate the state of Israel. We cannot have some kind of an authority which pays the families of murderers according to the number of people they've murdered, or an authority that is headed by someone who hasn't denounced this massacre over 30 days after the massacre. We can't have that. We'll need to have something else. But still, we need to have some kind of security control, and I insist on that. There might be some pressures on that, but I will be relentless. I mentioned Yechiel Leiter, and, you know, I spoke with him this evening, and he said to me, he said, "Sir, Mr. Prime Minister Bibi, I lost my eldest son. He just finished his course of reservist battalion commander with excellence, a father of 6, such an incredible man. And I would like to ask only one thing of you. I do not want his death to be in vain. I want you to complete the mission." And I said to him, "Yechiel, I swear to you, that's exactly what we're going to do. And in order to do that, completing this task means that the day after Hamas, we will not be able to have a new Hamas that will be formed there. That I can promise." I think that we need to continue this war. I think we need to kill the terrorists before, while, or after, unfortunately, after they carry out their terror attacks. The state of Israel is utilizing all of its force and power in the north, the south, and the center. There are so many terrorists that have been killed, and justly so. That is what we must do. I'm focusing on that, and I'm not going to get dragged into any argument of somebody who said something over the past 20 years. I'm not going to go into a cynical place in this day and age and comment on that question about capital punishment. Sir, as you've told us, we've been hearing about reports about a deal to release the hostages over the past 48 hours. Will Israel agree to bring in fuel to the Gaza Strip, or will Israel agree to an initial deal that doesn't include soldiers? As for you, Minister Gallant, you said that the people of Beirut Beirut, if Nasrallah makes a mistake, might find themselves in the same situation of the people of Gaza. I'd like to ask you, because you once supported a preventive measure against Hezbollah, but your opinion wasn't accepted then, what mistake would Hezbollah make? What's the red line he should cross? I think we can make the biggest mistake we can make is to talk here about the terms and conditions for the release of the hostages. That would be a terrible mistake, because if we're speaking here, it's like we're telling the Hamas and we're disclosing our cards, and we're not doing that. And we speak amongst ourselves, by the way, late into the night, into the wee hours of the morning. But that's only between us. We will do whatever is necessary to bring them back, and we'll do so with determination. And I'm certain that we'll do so very cleverly. And it requires both cleverness and determination. And the clever thing is not to talk about it here. So I'm not going to talk about it here. Could you maybe repeat your question? Yes, I'm asking for you, what would be that grave mistake that if Nasrallah makes that mistake, Israel will attack? What will be the red line? Because your position that was published in the past that perhaps Israel should take a preemptive, preventive strike. If you hear that we had attacked in Beirut, then you will understand that he had crossed the red line. Mr. Prime Minister, do you regret the decision to contain Hamas, to give them these suitcases filled with money that built tunnels and purchased weapons? And as for the north, you say to Hezbollah this evening not to join the war, but 100,000 Israelis who live in the near the confrontation line, many of them have been evacuated, and they will not return to their homes until we lift the threat of Hezbollah and the Radwan force. Are you willing to look at them in the eye and say that at the end of this campaign, Hezbollah will no longer pose a threat on their and their children's lives? The answer to your second question is yes, because that's one of the goals of our war, not just to completely wipe out Hamas and bring back our hostages, but to bring back security to the state of Israel. And this security will be achieved in various ways, in the blows that we give or deliver to Hamas, and also the blows that we administer to Hezbollah as well. It's their choice to be engaged in this exchange of blows, but it's their choice. And if they cross the red line, they'll see what we have to do from the ground and from the air. And I think that we need to understand that after this war, an entirely new system will exist here. We'll have a bigger military. The security budget will increase. That's the reality of the Middle East. I thought that even beforehand, as we started increasing that budget, it will continue to increase. We will have very strong active defense in all of our borders. The military will be deployed in many places, but also throughout our borders in a way that it hadn't been deployed before. But anyhow, we will give the Israelis, both in the north and the south, a sense of security, and we're going to rehabilitate the kibbutzim, the moshavim, the towns and cities that were harmed in the south. And now you asked another question. Look, I think that there's a mistake here, a mistake in which the policy is being presented. The policy wasn't to contain Hamas or at least to strengthen Hamas. No, our policy was to beat the hell out of them, and we did that in a series of 4 campaigns. The last one of them was Guardian of the Walls, and we killed thousands of terrorists. I gave an instruction to kill the military commander of Hamas, Ahmed Jabri, and we killed many other commanders, and we harmed their naval capabilities, their aerial capabilities, their tunnels, and we blocked them in that wall that went underground. So we beat them up, but we didn't completely eradicate that. So now we're correcting them. We're going to uproot them once and for all, and we're going to guarantee this situation with what happens the day after Hamas, because we don't want Hamas or any other terrorist to return to the Gaza Strip. So that was the policy, but we need to complete it by completely wiping out Hamas. Sir, Mr. Prime Minister, you said that bringing back the hostages is a main goal, but do you promise that the war will not end without all the civilian and military hostages returning home? And another question, the entire people of Israel are united behind the IDF troops, but some people are saying that your people are collecting private secret protocols about past discussions, and this is added to the tweet that you deleted. Why is that being done, if not in order to cast blame on the security establishment? First of all, it's not happening. This is a lie. There is no such thing as cabinets and discussions of the cabinet. Since the establishment of the State of Israel, this has been documented by the Secretariat of the government. It's all recorded and transcribed. So attributing that to my office, these are all lies. And there are so many lies. I'm not going to comment on them. I'm too busy conducting and managing this war, both the diplomatic and the military campaign, and anything else we must do in order to achieve absolute victory. Did you ask another question? We defined 2 goals, and we intend to complete both of these goals. Sir, the people from the kibbutzim who had to be evicted are at Eilat, the Dead Sea, at Shfaim, and they have a lot of complaints to the government that nobody's visiting them. And 5 weeks after this disaster, could you say something to them that you do intend to meet with them soon or come visit them? I have had several meetings and very lengthy discussions with those who are taking care of the evacuees. That's the main thing, to bring the money, to bring the necessary systems. I've appointed Moshe Edri, who's doing an excellent job, along with the Director General of the Prime Minister's office, to help the people from the south and to help in the north. I do that all the time, but I am managing this war, but I meet with the wounded and with the troops. Yesterday I met with the field forces and the artillery forces in the north and the south. I meet with the families of the hostages, with bereft families. The day before yesterday and today, I had conversations and meetings, etc., etc. I can guarantee you that we will take care of the evacuees. We'll take care of everyone without an exception. Mr. Prime Minister, the statement of Minister Amichai Eliyahu created tremendous diplomatic damage to Israel. The president of Turkey and Iran said today that the IAEA needs to supervise Israeli nuclear capability. My question is, how come you didn't fire him? Why did you only suspend him when such tremendous damage was caused? And another question, were you surprised by the comments of President Macron? Were you surprised by his comments? Do you intend to speak with him? Thank you. Minister Eliyahu, what he said was incorrect, completely detached from reality. His comments do not reflect our policy. I reprimanded him. I suspended him. He probably won't do it again. If he does it again, he'll no longer be part of the government. And now, regarding the president of France, Macron, I think that he did some very good things. He came here and he also sent a ship, a hospital ship, and these are good things he did. On this matter, if you're asking me, I think he made a grave mistake, both a factual and a moral mistake. Those who are preventing the civilians to move from Gaza to the south of the Strip is Hamas, not Israel. Israel is asking them to leave. Those who fired at the safe corridor, it wasn't Israel that opened fire on these civilians, it was Hamas. And those who are using Gazan civilians as human shield, it's not Israel, it's Hamas. Those who are focusing on hospitals, schools, UNRWA sites and facilities, the UN sites, it's not Israel, it's Hamas. So the responsibility for any harm caused to civilians, the Hamas should be accused for that, not Israel. And I'm talking about the countries of the free world, the civilized countries. And if we sanctify this method of the terrorists, that they can situate situate themselves in the middle of civilian population and committing a double war crime. They are targeting our civilians, but simultaneously they're also hiding behind their civilians. Then we guarantee that this thing will continue to spread out. And I am saying this to the President of France and to all the other leaders. And this is why you need to determine not just a line of war, which is extremely just, but we also need to determine a moral line that one does not provide any immunity to terrorists who commit a double war crime. We are doing everything we can, truly, in order to minimize damage to civilians or to minimize collateral damage, but we will not give Hamas license to murder our civilians without our responding to it. We don't need anybody to preach us that. Sir, Mr. Prime Minister, you said that you've met with the families of the hostages, but there are at least 200 families of hostages that you did not meet with, that you did not speak with. When do you intend to do so? How come?
Yes, that was Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and a war cabinet member.
Frid och shalom, älskade vänner. Är det verkligen så att katolska kyrkan är den äkta kyrkan med de äkta rötterna? Eller kan det möjligtvis vara så att det sanna flödet och sanna rötterna, roten, går ännu längre tillbaka ifrån första pingsten och vidare? Är det möjligtvis så att den katolska kyrkan har vållat stor splittring? Samma sak gäller ju gnostiska rörelsen som kom in ungefär här i den första evangeliet, så att säga vid 100-talet här. Och är det inte märkligt att nu, i slutet på denna tidsålder, så verkar det precis som de här två fårorna, gnosticismen och katolicismen, som har splittrat kristenheten, kommer samman till en enda fåra. Ja, vi ska ju inte vara speciellt förvånade. Vi som kan sanningen och vet sanningen, vi förstår att bakom båda två de här rörelserna finns en antikristlig ande. Och den kom ju in redan på 100-talet, så att säga där. Mina älskade, jag läser från Judas brev då, vers 3. Mina älskade, fastän jag är mycket ivrig att skriva till er om vår gemensamma frälsning, finner jag det nödvändigt att skriva till er och uppmana er att fortsätta kampen för den tro, eller den lära. Det är evangelium alltså, som en gång för alla har överlåtits och överlämnats åt de heliga. Ty hos er har nästlat sig in vissa personer. Om dem är det redan för länge sedan skrivet att de skulle drabbas av domen. Gudlösa som de är förvanskar i Guds nåd till försvar för ett liv i utsvävningar och förnekar vår ende härskare och Herre, Jesus Kristus. Och så går vi lite längre ner. Ska vi se här. Så står det så här att de knotar och klagar och följer sina begär. Det vill säga de är inte fyllda med Guds ande. De är stora i jorden och smickrar dem de kan ha nytta av. Men ni, mina älskade, kom ihåg vad som är förutsagt av vår Herre Jesu Kristi apostlar. De sa till er att i den sista tiden ska finnas människor som hånar er och följer sina gudlösa begär. Det är de som vållar splittring. De är oandliga och har inte Guds ande. Men vad är det då för ande? Det ser ju så andligt ut på dessa möten och konferenser. Ja, det är inget annat än antikrists ande som ska göra stora under och tecken för att bedra även oss som tror och håller fast. Så hård kommer och är kampen just nu. Titta på det här videoklippet. Det handlar om New Apostolic Reformation. Och härligt att höra att många kommer ut ur den. Men då är man så skadad ofta så man behöver samtal, bön, själavård och uppleva mycket av Guds nåd. Tillhör du den här skaran som kommer ut ur de här byggena med falska apostlar och profeter, så står vi gärna till tjänst för samtal om du önskar. Gud välsigna dig. I Jesu Kristi underbara namn. Amen.
Why are people so attracted to this movement?
I think there are a variety of reasons. People have shared with us that they've been drawn to the movement. Some people are desperate for healing. Bill Johnson, and he's the head apostle at Bethel Church in Reading, and other leaders in this movement teach that it is always God's will to heal. There are no exceptions. And so people desperate for physical healing, people desperate for emotional healing through their practices like Sozo, that's S-O-Z-O, inner healing, deliverance ministry that's become popularized because of Bethel and other churches now. It's at other churches. Of course, the experiential, the music is a major draw to this movement. And many people have told us it was the music that first, like Bethel music, that first drew them, because it moved them. When they would listen to the music, it would kind of move them. It would make them feel like they were having encounters with God in ways they never had when they listened to other worship music. And so then they become interested in the church and start going to conferences or reading books by the leaders and get drawn in that way. So the experiential is a very big component in what draws people to this movement. And the leaders in this movement also they say that really they teach that you can't know your destiny, you can't fulfill your destiny without the revelations that they're giving, that you can't really experience intimacy with God without the revelations, that maybe there are demonic spirits that are hindering your connection with God or harming your relationships and things like that. And they have the keys to helping you, get rid of these demonic spirits. So really they promise blessings. Anyone who comes under the authority of the apostles and prophets and comes under their spiritual covering, is the language they use, and aligns with them, which is really another term for submits to them, then you'll get blessings. And that includes financial blessings. It includes relational blessings, any kind of blessings, prosperity, health, wealth, all of that flows to the people who come under their spiritual covering, and in protection from the demonic realm too. And so if you leave their covering, then you're putting yourself in danger of losing all of these blessings, and also in danger from the demonic realm as well.
I think, too, that there is a great mythology that has grown up around the narrative of Bethel Church ministry and of other NAR ministries. And so people believe that great things are happening, that God is at work in a very dramatic way at this far-off place, and they're drawn to that. And when they compare their own experience, whether it's just as individual believers or their experience in fellowship with other believers in their own churches, with what they're hearing reported from Bethel and other quarters, they see a disconnect and they long for that same experience. They hunger and they thirst for that same thing. And that we can understand that. And now, I believe that it's a mythology, that miracles are happening on a routine basis, and that they're able to activate people in the miraculous and in the prophetic. I think all of that is these are promises that are not realized. They're not fulfilled for those who believe them. But people see this from a distance, and of course, there's a sense that there's so much going on because so many people are involved, and they go and they get caught up in the excitement of it, I think. And so that has a powerful effect on the minds of people to open them up to the possibility that this could be life-changing for themselves as well.
So everything that's been talked about so far, you talk about how they purport to have authority, but everything that we've talked about seems to actually prove that they don't. So that leads into Brian Simmons and the Passion Bible, which is one of the best-selling Bibles out there right now. Can you guys talk a little bit about Brian Simmons and how that Passion Bible came to be?
So Brian Simmons is an apostle in the New Apostolic Reformation movement. And he claims that in 2009, Jesus Christ visited him and commissioned him to make this new translation of the Bible. And he claims that God promised that he would give him secrets of the Hebrew language, would give him divine downloads that would enable him to translate.
This sounds familiar.
Yeah, he admits, maybe like Joseph Smith or something like that. Yeah, we note that in our book. But and so he but he claims that he admits that he's not a scholar in the biblical languages.
Well, it's
but
obvious.
He would get this divine enablement, and he even has claimed that there's an angel named Passion that accompanies him in his work and his ministry. So it's named the Passion Translation of the Bible. He says it's a reliable translation that people can use for their daily Bible study. He doesn't say it's a paraphrase, but it's not even a reliable paraphrase, as we show in our book.
Yeah.
Because it takes NAR teachings and inserts them into the text to make it sound like the Bible supports teachings that it doesn't. He also claims that he's worked with original Aramaic manuscripts that Bible scholars will say don't exist. And so Mike Winger, for those who know Mike Winger, he commissioned a number of Bible scholars, reputable Bible scholars who work on Bible translations, and they reviewed the Passion Translation, and they'll say, yeah, this is not a reliable translation. It's sectarian. But leaders in this movement, like Bill Johnson, have endorsed this translation. They preach from it in the pulpit at times, and they continue. Bill Johnson persists in defending this translation, even though he doesn't, have the credentials to really comment on Bible translation, or he doesn't know what would make a reliable Bible translation. He does not have those skills himself, but he continues to persist in defending this translation. And so it's really concerning because many people in this movement and even just others outside of the movement are starting to use this translation and to quote from this translation. Well, so it's very concerning.
As you guys noted in the book,
a recent event that he is promoting that brings Catholics and Christians united in order to share the gospel. I want to get right into this because Bill Johnson has come out to support this event. He's come out and posted this on his Facebook page, and I'm going to be bringing Pastor Joe Schimmel on to bring a pastor's perspective on what's going on here in this whole ecumenical movement. But here's what Bill Johnson had to say about the event. So the event will take place in Portugal, according to the flyer. And here's what it says the event will be like. It says, join us for the transformative worship and evangelization event where we, Catholics and Protestants together, will ignite the flame of faith, unite the body of Christ, and bring the message of the gospel to every person. Don't miss the opportunity to be a part of the change. And then it lists some of the people that will be there, like Catholic Matt Maher, as well as Jonathan Rumi, the Catholic mystic who plays Jesus on The Chosen. It has Israel Houghton. It also has, of course, Heidi Baker. And this is what Bill Johnson, while trying to promote the event and raise funds for it, said, quote, of the $1 million needed for this event, $800,000 has already been raised. $200,000 more is needed. It is an unprecedented opportunity for Protestants and Catholics to work together in evangelism. So with all of that, we see very clearly he's promoting this ecumenical event. And so we're going to bring on Pastor Joe for Pastor Joe's point of view.